There was anger and disappointment when the Taliban announced girls above grade 6 would not return to the classroom.
Girls wore their school uniforms. They were waiting outside their schools, but the gates were closed and they were crying.
The decision was announced abruptly, just as schools were set to reopen for the first time since the Taliban seized power in August.
We call on the de facto authorities to respect all girls' rights to education.
The Taliban claim they respect the rights of women according to Islamic law, but restrictions on daily life are increasing. Women cannot travel on an airplane without a male family member, and parks are now segregated. Women can visit 3 days a week, men the other 4. Rangina Hamidi was Afghanistan's education minister before the Taliban took power in August. She fled the country and now lives in the U.S. I spoke to her about the reversal on girls' education and her hopes for the future of her country. And Rangina Hamidi joins me now. Nice to see you.
Thank you for having me.
Can you tell me what was your reaction when you found out that the Taliban had so abruptly reversed its decision about letting girls go to school after grade 6?
Devastation, anger, frustration, and really loss of hope. I was hoping, from August 15th until that decision, there was this incredible sense of hope that I had in my heart, thinking that perhaps they've changed, perhaps they will reconsider their mentality. But on that day when they announced, I literally was broken.
Was it, as you said, you were optimistic that the Taliban was going to allow this to go forward? What does it indicate to you that they did not?
Well, unfortunately, I think they've just proven yet once again that they haven't changed. This conversation from 2017, when the international community was meeting with members of the Taliban in Doha, and the narrative we were told is that they've changed their views, they've changed their opinions. And this decision slapped that narrative in the face, saying, oh, they haven't.
As a woman and as a former education minister, how critical is it for girls in that country to believe that they can be educated, have the right to be educated, and that they should be doing that?
The one benefit of the past 20 years to the Afghan nation and to the Afghan people is this understanding of valuing or understanding the value of education. Yeah. Whether you are from a poor community, the rural community or urban community, men and women at large across Afghanistan did finally come to a consensus that education is good for the future of the country and for the future of their families, for both boys and girls. And, when I became Minister of Education in June of 2020, I took the pride of narrating to my national audience as well as international audience that the education or the desire to educate your children in Afghanistan was the desire of the old father who used to take, his daughters to school in Paktika, which was the least served province in Afghanistan in the past 20 years, that this was his agenda. It was not the agenda of the international community anymore. And so the country, the population of Afghanistan knows and wholeheartedly owns the importance and the value of education for both boys and girls in particular. And then everybody in Afghanistan now knows that a country that is crippled, more than 50% of the nation, which is girls and women's population, will never be able to fly fully and completely. And so the Afghan population know, but this decision, unfortunately, does not take that desire into consideration.
You fled Afghanistan when the Taliban took power. I know that you didn't want to do that wasn't your first instinct. Why ultimately did you feel that you needed to leave?
I have a daughter who's in 6th grade right now. And within months, she's going to 7th grade. And as a mother, I had to become selfish and think about her future, while of course, incredibly still feeling guilty that I have left behind millions of other daughters that I left in the country. But ultimately, I think your motherly natural instincts come and get you. And I did this for my own daughter's future.
There are countries, I'm sure, as you see around the world, that are now opening up their doors to Ukrainians who are fleeing a conflict that they are living with. Canada just this week hit the 10,000 mark of Afghan refugees. Do you see a difference in the way refugees are being treated? Are you concerned that Afghanistan and the refugees fleeing that country could be forgotten in the midst of another conflict happening?
Unfortunately, we're already forgotten, and it's quite visible through the media narratives, through policies, through the attention. As much as we are hearing some hopeful voices within the administrations, within policymaking platforms, but the actions speak louder than words. And not only in terms of creating a clear pathway or being clear about what the policies are for the future of the still millions of people still living in Afghanistan. Yeah. But at the same time, so while I see the difference in how we treat refugees from countries like Afghanistan as compared to Ukraine, that's become an obvious, visible disparity as well. At the same time, I challenge the world to say, how many more refugees are we going to take from places like Afghanistan? The international community and international decision makers need to take the responsibility for creating the grounds for a country and a nation like Afghanistan, where the international community handed over Afghanistan to the Taliban. Yeah. I want decision makers to know that they're responsible for this decision. And now, unfortunately, 40 million people are suffering, and I don't see a realistic opportunity for these 40 million people to flee the nation of Afghanistan.
So let me just leave it on that question then. What is your hope for the future of your country? You don't sound like you have a lot of it, but maybe you do find some hope somewhere.
My hope, I guess the hope that I live with, is that Afghanistan as a nation and as a people have been a resilient population throughout history. Sure. I know as a nation, we're going through some very troubling times right now, but I'm hopeful that my people, in spite of being crushed and stepped on, we've proven in history that we will rise again, and this time probably even stronger than in the recent history of Afghanistan.
Rangina Hamidi, thank you for making time for Canada this morning. Appreciate it.